Tonight, Donald Trump is on his way to the UK for his unprecedented second state visit. The US president signalled the UK wants to talk trade, but will he budge? What seems to have got Mr. Trump most excited, though, is his visit to Windsor Castle to meet the King and Queen. We're about to see him treated to 48 hours of pomp and ceremony. Well, the president arrives just days after Britain's ambassador in Washington, Lord Mandelson, was sacked. MPs have held an emergency debate about it. We'll show you what they had to say. Also tonight, an exclusive from The World with Yalda Hakim, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky tells her he wants Keir Starmer to push Mr. Trump to help secure Ukraine's future. And with Melania Trump travelling with her husband for the visit here, we'll look back at what other First Ladies have got up to when they've accompanied their spouses to the UK. My first man and First Lady tonight, Jonathan Gullis and Liz Saville-Roberts, will be with us for the next hour. It's Tuesday, I'm Sophy Ridge live from Westminster, and this is the Politics Hub. Hello, good evening. Well, before we do get going tonight, I just wanted to flag to you that we are expecting a pretty significant update from the United States very shortly. This is what is going on in Utah right now, the live shot we're bringing you now, because the Utah County Attorney Jeff Gray is announcing the charges against Tyler Robinson. Now, Tyler Robinson, of course, has been accused of shooting the Conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Of course, Tyler Robinson there is accused of shooting and killing Charlie Kirk, who, of course, has been one of the most prominent speakers of the right for many years now, someone who's close to Team Trump, some who many people online really went to for his views and all sorts of things, but he was someone who was getting interested in having a debate as well with people that he was speaking to. And it was really a shooting that shocked the world. So what we are expecting to hear from in just a very short time is the Utah County Attorney Jeff Gray, which is the charges against Tyler Robinson. So Tyler Robinson, 22 years old, was taken into custody on the 12th of September in his native Utah, and it was after a 33-hour manhunt involving the law enforcement and the FBI, of course, as well. Well, we can bring in Sky's David Blevins now while we wait, because, David, details have been coming through in the last few minutes, haven't they?
Yes, we are receiving updates all the time in relation to this investigation. We're expecting to hear imminently, Sophie, from Jeff Gray, who is the county attorney for Utah. There has been speculation for some days now that we will have 3 charges, one of them aggravated murder, another is expected to be an attempt to obstruct justice, and the third one related to the possession of a firearm, a felony possession of a firearm. Now, I'm not sure if the gentleman we're looking at right now is going to speak or if he's just doing a sound test, but we are expecting an update imminently. Let's just pause for a moment. I'm not sure we've got any audio from Utah just yet. So as I say, we await confirmation of the charges to be laid against a 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, taken into custody last Friday morning. He was actually the 3rd suspect to have been detained in relation to this investigation. 2 previous suspects were held by the local law enforcement, but they eventually were led to this 22-year-old. We were led to believe at the time he had been handed in really by his own family, who had gone to a local clergyman, having seen some pictures of a suspect on television. We've also learned since that police have been speaking to a boyfriend he'd been living with at the time. But as I say, we don't have the confirmation of the exact charges, but there's been lots of speculation that one of them will be a felony charge related to the possession of a firearm, another one obstruction, attempt to obstruct justice, and the primary one, of course, which is aggravated murder. So it's been delayed, we understand, just a few minutes, but we do expect to have those confirmations of charges shortly, Sophie.
Thank you very much indeed, David Blevins. There, we are of course waiting to hear from the Utah County Attorney Jeff Gray, who we're expecting to take to the podium in a few minutes, as David was just saying, to give us an update on the charges against Tyler Robinson, the 22-year-old, who was taken into custody on 12th of September after a 33-hour manhunt after the shooting of the right-wing activist Charlie Kirk, a shooting that has led to reverberations around the world, of course. A lot of debates about free speech, a lot of debates about people being able to do politics, to speak their minds without fear of violence. And of course, Charlie Kirk, who was just 31 years old, just 31 years old, who died of a single gunshot wound while speaking at Utah Valley University. So you can see there, Tyler Robinson, we're expecting those charges to be announced very soon. There's a little bit of delay going on, you probably realise that by now, so I think what we will do is just take you away from it for a moment, but as soon as we hear more, as soon as anyone gets up to that podium, we'll take you straight back there. In the meantime, I do have another breaking story that's coming through to us just in the last few moments, just since we've been on air, in fact. It's in relation to the Home Office and also to migrants. Now, this is about the deportation of illegal immigrants. And what we are hearing is that an Eritrean man will not be deported to France on Wednesday. It's under the government's one-in, one-out policy after he won his High Court bid to have the removal temporarily blocked. So I think we can bring in our political correspondent, Liz Bates, at this point. This is such a crucial point of this government's plan to try and tackle small boats. What's happened?
Well, we're just getting details of this, Sophie. So, as you said, an Eritrean man will not be deported to France tomorrow. The High Court has blocked it. Lawyers acting on his behalf said he would be left destitute if he was returned to France tomorrow. Obviously, the Home Office very much argued in favour, but a legal challenge. We've seen this happen before. It happened to the previous government under the Rwanda plan. This is the last thing that this government needs to hear amid all the other scandals that they're dealing with. This is a flagship area for them. Under Yvette Cooper as the Home Secretary, they have been taking baby steps towards getting on top of this problem. We know that they haven't wanted to do anything kind of rash, as they would see it, or bold, as their political opponents would see it, like leave the European Convention on Human Rights or rip up other post-war conventions on refugees. So this deal that they made with France, Starmer and Macron back in July, a big flurry around this one-in, one-out policy. I think they thought that it could be a real flagship policy in terms of getting on top of this issue of the small boats and the problems with the asylum system, but a legal challenge that has blocked it. They will be really, really disappointed with this, and it could throw the entire policy into complete disarray. We'll have to find out. This has just happened, so we don't have a response from the Home Office. But what we do have is Kemi Badenoch. This is what she has said. This is exactly what I said would happen. Labour had a one-in, one-out deal with France. They failed to get anybody out, and we're still taking in more people from France, so we're still having net increase in immigration based on this deal. It is extraordinary that Labour are not able to deport one person. There was only one migrant on that flight. So this is about the entire thing. Reform, this is their head of policy, Zia Youssef. This is of no surprise to anyone. This Labour government is wasting taxpayers' money on a completely hollow and unworkable scheme, he says, without leaving the ECHR, disapplying international treaties like the 1951 Refugee Convention and a total legal reset, no government will be able to get deportations off the ground. And look, I mean, this government is facing the same issues that many previous governments have faced, legal challenges to some of their flagship policies coming out of the Home Office to try to get on top of what is starting to seem like an insurmountable problem of the small boats coming across the Channel. They'd be very, very unhappy with this in the Home Office and in Number 10 this evening.
Yeah, certainly will. Liz, thank you very much. Well, let's bring in our duo for this evening, shall we? The former Conservative MP, Jonathan Gullis, and the leader of Plaid Cymru in the Commons, Liz Saville-Roberts. Great to have you both with us. I'm getting flashbacks of Rwanda with the empty planes. What's going on?
I've had flashbacks of my time in Parliament for the last 2 weeks, I think. Scandal, infighting, factionalism, a Prime Minister, whether or not he's actually going to see out his term in office. And now, of course, I think this Labour government has successfully deported more journalists than it has now illegal migrants back to France. It's just beyond parody, to be perfectly frank. And many of us were saying this was likely to happen because the deal with France was never one in, one out, despite the way it's been briefed. I think Yvette Cooper was thrown under a bus, to be perfectly frank. She was always trying to make it very clear that this was a trial, whereas in Sir Keir Starmer certainly was over-eager to pretend that, it was actually 1 out, 17 in, is the reality. And essentially, the Labour Party did this deal with the French government, but never actually looked at the legal challenges that are constantly posed by human rights activists that Sir Keir Starmer would call his mates.
Thanks very much indeed. I am just keeping an eye across what's happening in Utah, and I did just want to listen in case we are getting that update now from the county attorney, Jeff Gray, the charges against Tyler Robinson, who of course is accused of shooting the activist Charlie Kirk.
I may cut it off. I may assist him in helping to pick the people who are asking the question. We just ask that you keep the questions to the process of what we're talking about and refrain from asking questions that speculate or get into the political dynamic of the case. For Utah County, this is a murder case, and we're trying a murder case. We're trying to keep the questions to that, but I understand that you're under pressure and have a lot of different questions, and we'll try to answer them. We're joined today by our sheriff and our prosecution team and our county commissioners. Jeff is going to be the only one speaking right now, and I'll introduce right now County Attorney Jeff Gray.
The murder of Charlie Kirk is an American tragedy. Charlie Kirk was murdered while engaging in one of our most sacred and cherished American rights, the bedrock of our democratic republic, the free exchange of ideas in a search for truth, understanding, and a more perfect union. It is also an offense against the state and to the peace and enjoyment of the people of Utah and of all those who visit here. But Charlie Kirk's murder also strikes a more personal and intimate chord. Charlie Kirk was first and foremost a husband and a father to 2 beautiful young children. He was a son, he was a brother, and a friend. Like all murders, the senseless and needless taking of Charlie Kirk's life has shattered the lives of those he loved and those who loved him. To Charlie's wife, Erica, his 2 young children, his parents, his family, and his friends, I express my sincere condolences and offer my heartfelt prayers on your behalf. I also want to express my concern for everyone who was at Charlie's Turning Point USA event at the Utah Valley University, and all who have been impacted by this tragedy. As county attorney, I am charged with bringing justice to those who offend our laws. I am charged with bringing justice for those who are harmed. I am charged with bringing justice for Charlie Kirk. I am committed to these aims. I take this responsibility seriously. Today, after reviewing the evidence that law enforcement has collected thus far, I am filing a criminal information charging Tyler James Robinson, age 22, with the following crimes. Count 1, aggravated murder, a capital offense, for intentionally or knowingly causing the death of Charlie Kirk under circumstances that created a great risk of death to others. Count 2, felony discharge of a firearm causing serious bodily injury, a first-degree felony. The state is further alleging aggravating factors on counts 1 and 2 because the defendant is believed to have targeted Charlie Kirk based on Charlie Kirk's political expression and did so knowing that children were present and would witness the homicide. The state is also charging defendant with count 3, obstruction of justice, a second-degree felony for moving and concealing the rifle used in the shooting. Count 4, obstruction of justice, a second-degree felony for disposing the clothing he wore during the shooting. Count 5, witness tampering, a third-degree felony for directing his roommate to delete his incriminating texts. Count 6, witness tampering, a third-degree felony for directing his roommate to stay silent if police questioned him. And count 7, commission of a violent offense in the presence of a child, a Class A misdemeanor, for committing homicide knowing that children were present and may have seen or heard the murder and did so based on Charlie Kirk's political expression. Also, following the press conference, I am filing a notice of intent to seek the death penalty. I do not take this decision lightly, and it is a decision I have made independently as county attorney, based solely on the available evidence and circumstances and nature of the crime. Because we are seeking the death penalty, the defendant will continue to be held without bail in the Utah County Jail. Turning to the 10-page information, these are the allegations. On September 10th, 2025, at approximately 12:23 p.m., Charlie Kirk was shot and killed while speaking to a large crowd on the campus of Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah. Police found the suspected murder weapon, a bolt-action .30-06 rifle, nearby. Over the next approximately 33 hours, police conducted a manhunt for the shooter until the evening of September 11th, 2025, when Tyler James Robinson surrendered to police at the Washington County Sheriff's Office. DNA consistent with Robinson was found on the rifle's trigger. After shooting Mr. Kirk, Robinson hid the gun, discarded the clothing he wore when he fired the rifle, and told his roommate to delete incriminating text messages and not talk to police. Children were present at the time of the shooting. The shooting. Turning Point USA, a nonprofit organization founded in 2012 by Charlie Kirk, organized a public outdoor event to be held at noon on September 10th, 2025 at UVU. The event was the first in a series of similar events to be held at college campuses nationwide. Mr. Kirk is a well-known conservative activist, famous for these type of events, where he discusses various political issues and debates with audience members. His events and comments have garnered a significant number of supporters and drawn the ire of many who disagree with his political views. The event at UVU was announced far in advance and garnered significant publicity and interest. Consequently, several hundred people attended. Mr. Kirk was interacting with the crowd before the event officially got underway. Then, at approximately noon, Mr. Kirk seated himself under a portable canopy behind a table and microphone. He began speaking to the crowd and fielding questions from attendees, a format Mr. Kirk commonly used at his events. Mr. Kirk allowed his questioners to approach a microphone positioned directly in front of him. Mr. Kirk's team members were very close to him on his right and left, as well as some behind his canopy and others at various close locations near him. The large crowd surrounded Mr. Kirk on three sides. Temporary metal fencing separated attendees from Mr. Kirk by only a matter of feet. Directly above and behind Mr. Kirk was the UVU Hall of Flags, an indoor walkway spanning several hundred feet with floor-to-ceiling glass windows which overlooked the plaza where Mr. Kirk was seated. People were in the walkway at the time of the shooting. Approximately 15 minutes into the event, Mr. Kirk was answering a question about mass shootings by transgender individuals when a gunshot rang out. The bullet struck Mr. Kirk in the neck. He slumped to the ground almost immediately. The bullet's trajectory passed closely to several other individuals beside Mr. Kirk, including the questioner who was standing directly in front of Mr. Kirk. Children were visible near Mr. Kirk's stage when he was shot. Mr. Kirk was rushed to a nearby hospital where he was declared deceased. The medical examiner's report is still pending. So UVU surveillance. So at the moment of the shot, a UVU police officer was watching the crowd from an elevated vantage point. As soon as he heard the shot, he began to scan the area for threats. Believing the shot came from a rifle because of its sound, he looked for potential sniper positions. He noted a roof area approximately 160 yards away from Mr. Kirk as a potential shooting position and rushed there to look for evidence. The suspected shooting position is adjacent to an open, publicly accessible walkway. To access the suspected location, a person must climb over a railing and then drop to the roof only slightly below. The UV officer climbed over the railing and down onto the roof. He then walked to the suspected shooting position and confirmed a clear shooting corridor between the position and Mr. Kirk's seat. He also noticed markings in the gravel rooftop, consistent with a sniper having lain on the roof, impressions in the gravel potentially left by the elbows, knees, and feet of a person in a prone shooting position. Police reviewed surveillance from the camera covering the roof and discovered that it recorded an individual dressed in dark clothing cross the railing from the public walkway and drop onto the roof at approximately 12:15 p.m. Although the individual moved out of the camera's view for a short time, the camera again captured the individual running across the roof and then low-crawling to the area the UVU officer recognized as where the suspected sniper had dropped into a prone shooting position. After a short time, which matches the known time of the shot, the individual arose and ran across the roof to the northeast. This discovery led to an intensive review of UVU surveillance recordings to attempt to track and identify the suspect. Surveillance revealed the following. At approximately 11:51 a.m., the suspect entered campus from the north. He is seen wearing a black shirt with an American flag in the center, a dark baseball cap, and large sunglasses. Throughout the surveillance, the suspect keeps his head down and rarely raises his head enough to get a clear image of his face. As he proceeds across the campus, he is seen walking with an unusual gait. The suspect walks with very little bending in his right leg. consistent with a rifle being hidden in his pants. This unusual gait continues until the suspect is seen crossing the railway off the open walkway and onto the roof, where he leaves the camera's view. A camera later captures the suspect as he runs across the roof to the suspected shooting position. Immediately after the shot was fired, a camera captures the suspect running across the roof carrying an item whose shape is consistent with a rifle. The suspect is then seen climbing down from the roof. He appears to drop the item he was carrying as he hits the ground in a controlled fall. He then picks up the item and runs toward the northeast end of campus. Expanded crime scene investigation. Law enforcement officers followed the suspect's escape path to the northeast end of campus, where they believe the suspect left campus and entered a wooded area. In that wooded area, investigators found a bolt-action rifle wrapped in a towel. The rifle contained 1 spent round and 3 unspent rounds. This is consistent with the facts officers observed at the time of and immediately after the shootings. No shell casings were found on the roof, suggesting a bolt action rather than an auto-loading weapon, and only a single round was fired. Each round in the rifle contained an etched inscription as follows. The fired cartridge was etched, "No Tice's bulge, OWO, what's this?" The second cartridge that was again not spent, the last 3 were not spent, were not fired. The second, "Hey fascist, catch," with arrow symbols. The third cartridge, "Oh Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Chow Chow." The fourth cartridge, "If you read this, you are gay, LMAO." The rifle, ammunition rounds, and towel were sent for forensic processing. DNA consistent with defendant was found on the trigger, other parts of the rifle, the fired cartridge casing, 2 of the 3 unfired cartridges, and the towel. Law enforcement was unable to immediately locate the shooter, so they published photos of the shooter from the UVU surveillance cameras and asked for the public's help to identify him. Meanwhile, law enforcement continued to try to identify the shooter through other means. The Washington County investigation. On the evening of September 11th, 2025, as law enforcement continued their investigation, Tyler James Robinson went to the Washington County Sheriff's Office with his parents and a family friend to turn himself in. Robinson's mother stated that the following to police. On September 11th, 2025, the day after the shooting, Robinson's mother saw the photo of the shooter in the news and thought the shooter looked like her son. Robinson's mother called her son and asked him where he was. He said he was at home sick, and that he had also been at home homesick on September 10th. Robinson's mother expressed concern to her husband that the suspect shooter looked like Robinson. Robinson's father agreed. Robinson's mother explained that over the last year or so, Robinson had become more political and had started to lean more to the left, becoming more pro-gay and trans rights oriented. She stated that Robinson began to date his roommate, a biological male who was transitioning genders. This resulted in several discussions with family members, but especially between Robinson and his father, who have very different political views. In one conversation before the shooting, Robinson mentioned that Charlie Kirk would be holding an event at UVU, which Robinson said was a stupid venue for the event. Robinson accused Kirk of spreading hate. Robinson's father reported that when his wife showed him the surveillance image of the suspected shooter in the news, he agreed that it looked like their son. He also believed that the rifle that police suspected the shooter used matched a rifle that was given to his son as a gift. As a result, Robinson's father contacted his son and asked him to send a photo of the rifle. Robinson did not respond. However, Robinson's father spoke on the phone with Robinson. Robinson implied that he planned to take his own life. Robinson's parents were able to convince him to meet at their home. As they discussed the situation, Robinson implied that he was the shooter and stated that he couldn't go to jail and just wanted to end it. When asked why he did it, Robinson explained there is too much evil and the guy, referring to Charlie Kirk, spreads too much hate. They talked about Robinson turning himself in and convinced Robinson to speak with a family friend who is a retired deputy sheriff. At Robinson's father's request, the family friend met with Robinson and his parents and convinced Robinson to turn himself in. The family friend spoke to police and reported telling Robinson that it would be best if he brought all evidence with him to the sheriff's office to avoid police having to search his parents' home. The friend also asked Robinson if he had any clothes that were related to what he did. Robinson replied that he had disposed of the clothes in different areas. The roommate. Police interviewed Robinson's roommate, a biological male who was involved in a romantic relationship with Robinson. The roommate told police that the roommate received messages from Robinson about the shooting, and he did provide those messages to police. On September 10th, 2025, the roommate received a text message from Robinson which said, "Drop what you're doing. Look under my keyboard." The roommate looked under the keyboard and found a note that stated, quote, "I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it." Police found a photograph of this note. The following text exchange, then took place. After reading the note, the roommate responded, "What? You're joking, right?" Robinson, "I am still okay, my love, but am stuck in Orem for a little while longer yet. Shouldn't be long until I can come home, but I gotta grab my rifle still. To be honest, I had hoped to keep this secret till I died of old age. I am sorry to involve you." Roommate, "You weren't the one who did it, right?" Robinson, I am. I'm sorry." Roommate, "I thought they caught the person." Robinson, "No, they grabbed some crazy old dude, then interrogated someone in similar clothing. I had planned to grab my rifle from my drop point shortly after, but most of that side of town got locked down. It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering." Roommate, "Why?" Robinson, "Why did I do it?" Roommate, "Yeah." Robinson, "I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. If I am able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence. Going to attempt to retrieve it again. Hopefully they have moved on. I haven't seen anything about them finding it." Roommate, "How long have you been planning this?" Robinson, "A bit over a week, I believe. I can get close to it, but there is a squad car parked right by it. I think they already swept that spot, but I don't want to chance it." Robinson again, "I'm wishing I had circled back and grabbed it as soon as I got to my vehicle. I'm worried what my old man would do if I didn't bring back Grandpa's rifle. IDEK if it's had a serial number, but it wouldn't trace to me. I worry about prints. I had to leave it in a bush where I changed outfits. Didn't have the ability or time to bring it with. I might have to abandon it and hope they don't find prints. How the F will I explain losing it to my old man? Only thing I left was the rifle wrapped in a towel. Remember how I was engraving bullets? The F in messages are mostly a big meme. If I see notice bulge UWU on Fox News, I might have a stroke all right. I'm going to have to leave it. That really effing sucks. Judging from today, I'd say Grandpa's gun does just fine, IDK. I think that was a $2K scope. Wink, wink. Robinson again, delete this exchange. Again, Robinson, my dad wants photos of the rifle. He says Grandpa wants to know who has what. The feds released a photo of the rifle, and it is very unique. He's calling me, RN, not answering. Robinson, since Trump got into office, my dad has been pretty diehard MAGA. Robinson, I'm going to turn myself in willingly. One of my neighbors here is a deputy for the sheriff. Again, you are all I worry about, love. That came from Robinson. Roommate, I'm much more worried about you. Robinson, don't talk to the media, please. Don't take any interviews or make any comments. If any police ask you questions, ask for a lawyer and stay silent. The search for Robinson's residence. Police executed a search warrant on Robinson's residence. During that search, police discovered a shell casing with etchings like the etchings found on the shells in the rifle near UVU. Police also found several target boards with bullet holes in Robinson's home. Now, as I stated in the beginning, when I read those allegations, these are allegations. And like the evidence set forth in this statement, those allegations, what you've heard from the media, even from state and federal officials, has not been tested in the crucible of a jury trial. I understand the public's desire to know the facts. My own family members have pressed me for information. Why are we reluctant to share the details of the investigation itself and comment on the case? Because I want to ensure a fair and impartial trial. I became a prosecutor because of my love for the ideals of this great country and the principles embedded in our Constitution. The free exchange of ideas and opinions is critical to this great American experiment, but so too are the protections afforded to the accused found in the Fifth and Sixth Amendments. The right against self-incrimination, the right to a speedy and public trial, the right to the effective assistance of counsel, the right to confront one's accusers, and the right to compel the attendance of witnesses. And perhaps most importantly, under our Constitution, the accused is presumed innocent until we, the state, prove to an impartial jury of defendant's peers his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. That jury cannot rely on our allegations, on what they hear in the news, or on what they hear from a public official. The jury is the sole trier of fact, and they will ultimately determine those facts based on evidence a trial judge has determined is admissible. Again, as prosecutors, we bear the burden to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. But make no mistake, we welcome this burden. I'd like to now introduce my trial team who will be charged with prosecuting the case. This is a veteran and expert.
So just to give you the very latest there from Utah and the confirmation that the Utah attorney, Jeff Gray, is going to be pursuing the death penalty for the 22-year-old Tyler Robinson over the killing of Charlie Kirk, the right-wing activist. We can bring in David Blevins now, our US correspondent from Washington. David, what was your takeaway?
Extraordinary detail coming from the county attorney, who is the man laying the charges in relation to Tyler Robinson, revealing that his mother saw photographs of the suspect when they were released last week, became concerned, discussed that with her husband, that they eventually made contact with their son and persuaded him to hand himself in. She said that over the last year or so he'd become more political and had started to lean more to the left, becoming more pro-gay and trans-right oriented. She also then went to contact a friend of the family, and that friend of the family, a retired law enforcement officer, was the person who went with them when the 22-year-old handed himself in to police. He also revealed that when officers spoke to his roommate, his boyfriend, who is transitioning to female, he revealed that he had received a text from Robinson which told him to look onto the keyboard of his computer, and under that keyboard was a note which read, "I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk and I'm going to take it." When he was then asked why he had done it, Tyler Robinson is alleged to have replied, "I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out." So incredible detail, but ultimately the top line is that they are charging him with 7 offences, including aggravated murder, which is a capital offence, discharge of a firearm, obstruction of justice and witness tampering, among the other charges. And the state attorney has confirmed that he will seek the death penalty in this case. He said that's not a decision he's taken lightly. 22-year-old Tyler Robinson will remain in custody without bail. We expect him to appear before a court in the next couple of hours, Sophie.
David, thank you very much indeed. David Blevins there on the latest from Utah. Well, let's turn now to the story which is going to dominate the next 48 hours. Usually, a state visit from the US president, any president, but particularly Donald Trump, is a high-stakes moment. You know, the kind of thing you worry about, because let's face it, President Trump is extremely unpredictable. There's a lot that can go wrong. So it says quite a lot about the few weeks that Keir Starmer has had, that suddenly the Donald Trump visit is transformed into the calm in the storm rather than the actual storm itself. You know, the attitude in number 10 isn't, oh my goodness, we've got the Trump visit, it's so stressful. It's more like, well, at least we've got the Trump visit, we can take a breath and regroup. That's politics as normal. Keir Starmer has lost his US ambassador, his deputy leader, one of his closest and most loyal aides, and the mood among his own MPs is quite mutinous. But at least he's now got a 2-day state visit from the most famous man in the world to distract everyone for a little while at least. It could be an important time, of course, for the special relationship, but the US president was enthusiastic, even complimentary, as he left Washington.
Well, my relationship is very good with the UK, and Charles, as you know, who's now king, is my friend. And it's the first time this has ever happened where somebody was honored twice, so it's a great honor. And this one's at Windsor. They've never used Windsor Castle for this before. They used Buckingham Palace. And I don't want to say one's better than the other, but they say Windsor Castle is the ultimate, right? So it's going to be nice. But basically, I'm there also on trade. They want to see if they can refine the trade deal a little bit. We made a deal, and it's a great deal. And I'm into helping them. Our country is doing very well. We've never done this well. We're having trillions of dollars coming because of the tariffs. They'd like to see if they could get a little bit better deal, so we'll talk to them. But primarily it's to be with Prince Charles and Camilla. They're friends of mine for a long time, long before he was king. And it's an honor to have him as king. And, you know, I think he represents the country so well. I've watched. He's such an elegant gentleman, and he represents the country so well.
Well, let's chat again to Jonathan Gillis and Liz Saville-Roberts as well. Liz, big visit, and it's an important one, of course, Donald Trump.
Yes, I mean, the relationship between the United Kingdom and the United States is important. For Wales, one of the things that's interested us with Port Talbot and elsewhere, of course, is steel. We wait with bated breath whether there will be any reduction in the tariffs on steel and what this visit will actually mean. I guess it will be a time for the Prime Minister to breathe again, because it's been a really chaotic week. But, I mean, of course, we've just heard about the hideous murder of Charlie Kirk, and we've had a very tensionful week, the weekend here in the United Kingdom, in London and elsewhere, of course. I do beg now on leaders of the world, amongst them Donald Trump, to look at how you can reduce community tensions. Because while we enable free speech, we have to enable free speech in a democracy, but at the same time, this ramping up of tensions is dangerous for everybody.
Jonathan.
Well, look, I think it is a sigh of relief, actually, bizarrely, for Sir Keir Starmer that Donald Trump is coming, because that's where the media's attention will now go to. I agree with Liz, the steel element, for me, is the most fascinating. I think he himself, Donald Trump, there referred to it in the video that you've just shown, because despite the promises and the promotion of this amazing deal that was done by the government on steel, the reduction in the steel tariff actually hasn't come to fruition. So will it finally come through? Well, we'll only find out.
We'll have to wait and see. Thanks both. More from you. You can tell we're racing through things slightly because we are packed on the programme tonight. I want to bring you my interview now from Lord Glasman, who influential Labour peer, founder of Blue Labour, also the only Labour figure at Donald Trump's inauguration, so he knows Donald Trump better than most. Let's listen. Good to have you on the programme.
Great to be here, at last.
Yes, exactly. It's particularly good to have you today as we await the visit of Donald Trump. You, of course, the only Labour figure to attend his inauguration. And you said then that Team Trump is, in your words, very sceptical about the Labour government. Do you think that's still the case?
No, I think unbelievably, and against my expectations, Peter Mandelson actually did broker a real relationship with MAGA. I mean, it was an incredible act of shape-shifting, but he did it. He got the trade deal done. They are resolute. You know, they actually love England. I mean, they really are committed to that, the special relationship. So the big thing that worried me was, you know, when I got there, it's like Fox News is huge and Pakistani grooming gangs, paedophile rings. I mean, that's what I walked into. But when the conversations really started, they expressed their very strong desire to have a strong bilateral, that's the endlessly repeated, bilateral relationship with the UK.
Because this is, you say there, I'm quite intrigued by this, because I haven't really been able to work out if, you know, Team Trump has got that affection for England, or if they basically just see us as a bit of a, you know, anti-free speech basket case.
OK, so this is the point. They're very... Look, they've just come out... When I got there, they'd really just come out of the election with Kamala Harris, where, you know, the big Trump thing that he did during the Super Bowl 14 times, which goes, Kamala Harris is for they, them. Donald Trump is for you, right? That was the whole theme of the campaign. Anti-progressive, anti-liberal, new beginning, changing of the guard. And Labour sent 100 members to campaign for Kamala Harris. This was a huge story in the campaign. And then, all those issues relating to free speech, also, you know, they see our country as completely overwhelmed by legal and illegal immigration. I mean, that's the perception and the understanding there. So all credit really to the Foreign Office, to Number 10 and to Peter Mandelson is that they allayed those fears to some extent. I mean, they came back when Starmer was in the White House. So that's still, but overwhelmingly they feel, look, I understood my role. I was the invited Lord from the founding colony. You know, like I was there, you know, because they wanted, but they couldn't think of who to invite, I think.
Come on, you can give yourself more credit than that.
No, I mean, it was, that was constantly, are you going to increase defence spending, was always on their mind. What about free speech? So I said, look, you know, I say what the hell I like. I'm still there. And they were like, sure, OK. But that's the thing, they really, I mean, when I got there, I thought it was possible to negotiate a no-tariff deal. That was the extent to which they're very anti-EU. They see the EU as a hostile entity, and they see us as their eternal ally. And my joke, Sophie, when I was there was, well, now we've got no disagreements because, you've got a king. So
I bet they like that one.
oh, they did like that.
Yeah, we've already heard President Trump talking about how excited he is to see King Charles.
I mean, it's hard to overestimate the extent to which he sees himself as a king. I mean, this is real. I mean, very, very real. So it's a huge change, this administration, from the republic to a monarchy. I mean, it's that big. I compare Trump to Julius Caesar or Napoleon, who did that change.
Do you think Donald Trump actually likes Keir Starmer?
I don't know how much he actually likes anybody. I mean, it's very difficult to convey the extent to which it's just about him. I mean, he really is like that. And if you fawn and if he likes you. He genuinely likes you. And look what happened with Elon Musk. When I was there, Elon Musk was huge, a huge figure on MAGA Square, what I call MAGA Square in there, and in the politics. And he was having this huge battle with Steve Bannon about visas. He was one of the three big barons, you know, J.D. Vance, Steve Bannon, Elon Musk. Now, I mean, they did all that campaigning, arm in arm. So I don't think Trump's keynote is empathy and relationship. He's got a gangster view of life. You're in, you're loyal, or you're out. At the moment, I think Starmer's just about in the room.
And do you think, I'm interested in this, because, you know, Donald Trump likes a winner, right? As you say, it's quite transactional.
Well, he likes himself, and he considers himself a winner,
Yeah, exactly. Keir Starmer, I think it's fair to say, has had a very, very rocky few weeks, to the extent where people are even talking about replacements, how long it's got left. You know, do you think that will impact Donald Trump's view of him?
No, he likes a fighter. I mean, Donald Trump has had very bad times. I mean, 3 huge bankruptcies. I mean, his life is a yo-yo, and he loves that view of the guy who gets back on the horse. You know, so none of this turbulence and hate is absolutely his milieu. So this will actually bring them closer. They're out to get you. Stand together.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm interested in your take on Keir Starmer as well, if I may too. You said in July that he had 6 months to turn things around. Do you think he's started on that track? Have things got better?
Well, the one significant move, and I don't think people have made enough of it, is Shabana Mahmood at the Home Office. I can tell your viewers that she's completely for real. I've known her for over 10 years. She really wants to see law and order restored. Her dad ran a newsagent in Birmingham, so she hates thieves, you know, shoplifting, phone thieves. Any of you out there thinking of shoplifting and nicking people's phones, I mean, she is very hard on that. She also believes in sovereignty and borders. So in relation to the boats, in relation to immigration, she's going to be very tough. It was inconceivable to me when Starmer was elected that he'd appoint Shabana Mahmood. I mean, she's very outspoken on this. It's not her secret view that she expressed privately. She's very straight. So the move to the Home Office could be a beginning. There was also the industrial, you know, to me, we've got to have an industrial strategy, industrial renewal on the back of the defence spending, weapons production moving. It's just all too confused and too slow. So there's got to be a real acceleration of position.
Are you confident he'll lead Labour into the next election?
I don't know. No, that's more up to him than anybody. Anybody who thinks that he's vulnerable and can fall is utterly and completely mistaken. He led Labour to the greatest victory since 1945 a year ago. I don't see any of these groups in Labour as organised or, you know. So this is just yakking that goes on. He's in a very difficult situation, and it's not because Labour has put him in a difficult situation. He's Prime Minister, and he needs to define his direction.
That's the key.
That's the key. No, identity, direction, action. I mean, the key thing to me is obviously he's got to renounce the human rights lawyer. He's got to become a politician.
Yeah.
That's the key. That's the key.
In the beginning of the interview, you spoke quite a lot about Lord Mandelson and what a good job you thought he'd done, solely as in that US ambassador role. It did emerge last week that you warned the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, Morgan Sweeney, about appointing him as US ambassador.
Yes,
What happened there?
Oh, it was very, I'm not really a mystic figure. I went to the inauguration and I was invited to MAGA rallies, extremely interesting events. multiracial, overwhelmingly working class. I mean, what I witnessed was a working class insurrection against what I call the lanyard class. You know, the people who want to control what you think, what you say, who will sack you for just expressing normal views. You know, the thought police, or as they were known in East Germany, the Stasi. You know, that it was really visceral. And people would walk up to me with photos of Peter Mandelson blowing out birthday candles with Jeffrey Epstein, going shopping, clothes shopping. I was like, I mean, I of course said, but he was very good at Northern Ireland. You know, I held the line. I mean, I did. Obviously, I was the Labour guy there. I reported back to Number 10 that really I would really think again about this appointment because it was bound to happen. This was not out of the clear blue sky, was it? I mean, everybody knew, and everybody knew, I mean, I don't think I've ever been clothes shopping with a man in my life. I mean, it's a very intimate thing to do. That's what I do with my wife.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? I don't go clothes shopping.
I'm like that with my husband as well.
I don't go clothes shopping.
What did Number 10 say then when you said that to them?
Nothing. I mean, they asked me to send a report, and I sent a report. That was that. There was no further... I did say when I got back, I'd think again about this publicly, and then I did get a discreet suggestion to basically shut up about that, and I did.
Can I ask if you'd ever consider the role of ambassador yourself?
Oh,
you're quite connected to Team Trump, right?
Oh, if you see the house that the ambassador lives in, you know, this is dream world. I can't see any possibility on earth. Sadly, very sadly, yeah, I've got good relations in DC, and my my daughter has really got her eye on an art school. She wants to go to Washington. Yeah, but sadly, I don't think it's going to happen.
Thanks very much.
My
pleasure.
pleasure.
On the programme. Well, he's pretty honest about some of Labour's issues there, Liz.
Well, there are so many questions now around Keir Starmer's leadership. And we've got to remember, of course, that we have a Senedd election in Wales next May. We even have a by-election in Caerphilly on the 23rd of October. And we have just had a YouGov MRP poll back from Wales that put Plaid Cymru at 30%, Reform at 29%, but Labour falling 4 percentage points to 14%. What we're seeing now is a century of change. Labour have been in power, they've been winning elections for over 100 years in Wales. That's all changing in these polls now.
Interesting stuff. Fancy the US ambassador gig? Do you want to make your pitch?
I think Lord Glasman would be a far better choice than me, but I wish him every success. But that's probably the kiss of death for him by saying that too.
Thanks both. Great to have you both on the programme today. Busy show. That's it from us tonight. No Politics Hub tomorrow because we're going to have full coverage of Donald Trump's visit to the UK, and he's going to be landing in the next few hours. So stay with Sky News for all of that coverage. Up next, it is the UK Tonight with Sarah J. Mee, and then, of course, lots more as Donald Trump lands in the UK.